Alright, I'm going to show you guys how to use my tools that I wrote to modify a World of Tanks model and then do some work on its textures. First off, you're going to want to go download these tools. You can go to my GitHub here and get these tools, TankExporter and Swizzler. You just want to click on one of these things and go over here and click on the MSI and then click download. Okay. You're going to want to grab both of these tools. And what these tools look like. This is TankExporter. This is what I use to edit the tanks with. It's a go-between software between your 3D application and World of Tanks, because World of Tanks models are in a format called primitives. You can't load them with any kind of an editor to actually work on them. So what this program does is it lets you load them and convert them into a format that your 3D app can work with. This is Swizzler. This is a program we're going to be using to work with the DDS files that are used to texture the models in World of Tanks. You're going to want to definitely get this because this is a very good tool for helping work with this stuff. Okay, so to get started here, first thing you want to do is get this up and running. It takes a long time the very first time you run it because it has a lot of data to crunch. And then once you get done the very first load, after that, the only time you need to worry about that is if you uninstall or reinstall it or upgrade or something like that. But up here on the right, we have these tabs. Each one of these tabs is the tiers. Okay, you got tier 1 to tier 10. The inside of here are all the tanks that are in the game. There's actually tanks in here that you can't even get anymore. Okay. Oh, remember this bad boy. Okay, you can't even buy that. You can't earn it. That's been replaced, real version by the, okay. Load this one here if you want to look at it. Okay. All right, how this works. Today we're going to work on something that I've already done. I'm going to work on this 254E1. You can load, export, or extract. Well, we don't really need to load it to extract it, but I'm going to load it anyway. Because I want to go over this interface with you. Okay, up here on the left, you have some buttons where you can hide and show things. You can hide the grid. Okay. You can turn the wireframe on. Up here on this top bar, you can hide the textures. They're just like gray mapped here. Okay, a lighting setting. Turn up the specular amount. Ambient. Overall, you can adjust this to however you like it. As a camouflage. This is just for cosmetic purposes because I could do it. I did. It's also a good way to check out your texturing when you're done working on your tanks. If you want to get a texture back off of it, just select one of the other seasons up here. Okay. Shut the camouflage off, take the wireframe off. There's also simple render lighting. If you're having problems with your video card, especially on the Intel chips not working, you can try that and see if it helps. All right, then we have the texture map viewer. This lets you pick the different parts of the tank and their textures. And you see on the chassis, there's 4 of them. There's actually 4 components that make up the chassis. You got the tracks, and then you've got the actual undercarriage, right? What we're going to do here, I'm going to pick the texture. This is the AM texture, AO, GMM, and A&M. A&M is the normal map. Don't really care about this one. We don't really care about this one when we do our texture editing. Okay. But the main feature about this that you need to be aware of is it is able to plot out your UV coordinates. Okay. And we're going to need that when we're editing textures. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go back up to our T54 and we're going to export the FBX. Okay. I'll go to my desktop. I have a folder. See it right here. I'm going to go find that here. Will the Tank project. I put the exclamation point on it so that it stays up at the top, regardless of the actual name that you have in it. I'm going to open this up, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to go to favorites. We're going to add this current location, and then I can just find it over here. I don't have to even look anywhere. I can just hop in between. Okay, we're going to set this up, and we're going to save it. That's going to ask you about exporting UVs flipped. You definitely want the textures, and you definitely want to keep this in binary. You can take it off of binary mode, and then the FBX is readable in a text editor, but it just makes the file huge. You don't want to do that. Start the export. I'm going to reload the model, and as it's loading it, it's going to convert the textures from DDS to PNGs and put them in their own separate folder. Okay, so now if you look over here, you can see that there's stuff in here. We can open this up. Okay, and here's our FBX, and then inside of here is all of our textures. You're going to need these for your 3D app so you can actually see them. Okay. Now we're going to open up our 3D app. I'm using 3ds Max. One thing you want to do with your 3D apps, you want to set your unit setup, which is your scale. It should be 1 unit equals 10 centimeters. You need to get this set, okay? Because otherwise when you import and export, you're going to have the scaling wrong. Your tanks are going to be screwed up in the game. What I'm going to do, go up here, go to import, right? Go to our desktop, project, and we're going to select the T54E1 we just exported. Now under these settings, as far as geometry goes, there's really not much you need to set here. We don't have any animation, we don't have any cameras, we don't have any stuff like that, so no lights, none of that. But under advanced, under units, make sure this is set to automatic. Okay, that's important. That's really the only thing you need to worry about. And we'll click import. And there's our tank. Now, we have this loaded. I'm going to maximize this viewport here. And there we have it. We got the textures. And over here we got all of our, I'm going to shut everything off because we're only going to be working on the hull. And we'll turn the hull back on. I'm going to go over here and select it. Over here to editing meshes, okay? And we want to work by element, not select by faces or anything, because this way you select more of the tank. Now we're going to get a top view. Zoom down. I'm going to grab as much of this as we can without hopefully grabbing into the tank, and we're just going to delete it. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to try to make this tank look a little bit more like a hot rod. We go over here. Now grab this stuff. Grab this stuff. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff we don't want. Okay. Don't want this. Definitely don't want that. Anything that's floating out in space that you can see in this, it's going to be floating out in space in the game. So it's important that you make sure you get rid of all of it. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Okay. I'm going to go up here and change the lighting to black color. I'm also going to turn on edge faces, which is basically going to let us see these a lot better so we can see them hanging out in space to delete them. Okay. I got something sitting there, but I can't quite get a hold of it. Around here, find those. Well, for what we're doing, I think we're just going to leave this. You know, seriously, you want to try to find all of those odds and end pieces. Get rid of them. Get rid of that. Okay, we're going to come over here. We're going to basically do the same thing. Get a top view. Drag this down. Get rid of all of that. And that. Okay. Get rid of all this. Get rid of these supports. Okay. This part's probably pretty boring. We'll probably fast forward through it. Let you get the general idea how this works. I'm no expert at editing in 3D by any means. And we're going to get rid of this exhaust muffler because it's going to be hanging out in space. Okay. Put a bracket back here. Got to go. Might have another one on the other side. Okay. And I think we pretty much got this the way we want it. I'll take off this stuff. Okay. Let's go over here and make sure we got all that off of this side. All right, looks pretty good. I know there's some stuff hanging around out in space over here, but I can't see it anymore, so I'm thinking it may have been attached to one of the other things that I deleted, and that's why it vanished. Don't want to take these hubs off because that's where part of the suspension mounts. Okay. We want to clean this up some more. Get rid of all of these support brackets. Actually, don't serve any purpose whatsoever. Yeah. Got it. The more you use this software, the better you get at it. I don't use it a lot, so. Okay. I'm going to take one more last look at this and just make sure that we got everything off. Anything floating around. If you really wanted to, you could really clean this up. It's not going to affect any of the play style of this tank in the game. Not going to affect the collision box or any of that. In fact, you could make this tank disappear, make it into one single polygon, and it's not going to affect collision data because that's all handled on the server. You can't cheat as far as collisions go. All right, looks good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up here. Oh, I see a couple of more brackets I'd like to get rid of. I almost missed these. Okay. I'm going to grab those, get rid of them. Okay. Looks good. Now what we want to do is export this. Now, we have our scaling set, so don't forget to do this before you load anything because it's important to get your unit set up. Go up here to export. Okay, we want to put this back in the same folder so we don't have to be looking for it. Now, what I like to do is I click on the name, right? And we'll call this one new. We'll save it. Check your units and make sure this is on automatic. Up here, you want to make sure you don't have this split by vertex checked. That'll mess things up. You can send the tangents and binormals out, but my program can't load them. I have to recompute them. You can turn the triangulate on. Not going to hurt anything. Okay, oh, one more thing first. We're going to have a problem here. I'll show you what's going on. We deleted a whole bunch of geometry, but we still have lingering UV coordinates, right? That's not going to work in the game. So I don't know how your 3D app does it to remove them. It may remove them automatically. This does not. It leaves them dangling as garbage in the file. What you got to do, 3ds Max, go up here and select this. Go up to modifiers, UV coordinates, unwrap UVW, blank. Okay. And that's really all you got to do. And then if we go here and update this, you'll see that now we have all this cleaned up. And of course, you want to collapse this down so that it all becomes permanent when we export it. You also want to turn these back on because if you don't, you won't be able to see this. If you load this into something like Autodesk FBX Converter, not going to work very well because they won't show up. Now we're going to export. Name, get a template, click here, new, save. Remember, don't need any of this. Advanced options, units, we're going to make sure this is set to automatic. Okay, and FBX file format, we're going to set this to 2009. My program does not handle anything above that. But if you can't export this in 2009, you can go download this program, which is Autodesk FBX Converter 2013.3. This is completely free. All you do is do a search for the FBX Converter. You can find it in Google really easy. We can load up our new FBX here. Okay. You can see that we've modified it and it loads fine. But if you need to convert this, you can add a converter here and we can get this program here, right? And we can go down here and we can set what we want to write it to. So you go down here and pick FBX 9. Okay. And then write it out. And that's how you do it. Okay. We're done with this. Okay, we're actually done with this too. Now we're going to load this back in. Import FBX. Going to pick the new one. It's going to load the existing model. And what this is doing is asking us if we want to extract the data from the package files because it doesn't exist yet. So I'll show you something. Go up here and go down here to games. Whoops, games. World of Tanks. Go to mods, resource mods. Okay, nothing in here. So what we want to do is we want to say, yep, and it's going to tell us, it's going to ask us for what we want to export. We're only working on the hull, so we don't want to export any other stuff. And we want the LOD0. We're going to go extract. Okay, and you look over here, you'll see that. Pull all the data out of the package file and put it into our resource mods folder for us. You don't have to do this manually. Okay. Now that's basically it. Now all we have to do is go up here and go write primitive. All right. And it figured out that the hull was modified because the amount of vertices is different. So all I'm going to do is go write. And that's that. Okay. Now, if you want to go ahead and reload this, what this does is it looks in the resource mods folder first to see if there's a tank in there. And if it finds it, it loads it from there. If it doesn't, it's going to load it from the package file. So this way you can see your changes. So be aware of this, because if you want to start over with one of these tanks, you need to clean out that folder, because otherwise you're going to be loading your previous work. That works with FBX export too, so make sure you clean out your old tank work out of your resource mods before you start over. All right, we're done with this for now. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to open up Swizzler. Okay. I'm going to load an image. We need to go to C, Games, World of Tanks, Resource Mods. I'm going to show you a trick here. I already showed you before. We're going to go up here and we're going to go add current location to favorites, right? So now we can just flip in between these. Quite simple, right? Vehicles, American. Okay, we're going to need to create a folder here, just so we stay organized. We're going to call it work area. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the HD maps. You need to get these HD maps downloaded. or I mean, make sure you set the game up so that they get downloaded and you get the HD textures. Important. Let's get rid of these GM maps because we're never going to be working with them. And same with the animation or the normal maps. We don't care about them. That helps keep things less confusing. Remember, we're always going to start with the HD maps on these. So we're going to load the AMHD. You see it's the 2048 by 2048. We're going to export this. Basically save it as a PNG so we can work with it in easier, more user-friendly format. Okay, I'm going to go to our work area and we're going to save it, or changes the name for you so I don't really have to type anything. And it's done. And then we're going to load the AO map HD. And we're going to save this in the work area as well. Okay. Now, we have two textures we can go edit now. So we're going to open up something that we can edit textures with. This is an old version of Macromedia's Fireworks Aid. I've had it forever. It works good. So we're going to start with the AM map. Okay. Now, it'd be really nice to paint on here, but we don't know where to paint. Right? We have no borders. We don't have any information on where we're sitting at on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to TankExporter for a second. We're going to go to this texture mapping. Pick the hull. I'm going to pick this. Okay, we have this set on UVs only. We're going to save this image. Right? We're going to go resource mods. Okay. Work area. And we'll call this UV mask. Okay. And we're done with this. Now we're going to go up here. And we're going to open. Nope. Don't want to open. I want to import UV mask. And we're going to drop it right up here by the corner. Then we're going to go down here where its position is, and we're going to set it at 0, 0, so it's exactly lined up with our tank. Now we're going to lock it so that I can't paint on it. Okay. I'm going to zoom up to 100%. You can see we have our nice UV coordinates, and so we can start working with this, but I don't have anything to put on here, so we're going to need to go find an image. So we'll go back to this. This is Chrome, and let's go fire image. I already typed this in once, and we're going to grab, I like that one. Okay. Good quality image. You want a pretty good high-res image so that when you shrink it down and mess with it, it doesn't get too messed up. And resource mods. 54 work area, okay. And we're going to save this as the JPEG. Okay. Now if you go up here and go import, and we take this JPEG, you're going to see there's a major problem. It's all black in the back, and that's not going to do us any good because it's going to mask out all the tank. We're just going to delete this. We're going to go back to Swizzler. That's why this tool is very handy to have. Put this to JPEG. Open up this fire image and turn on Gen Mask. And this will convert this to a alpha background. As long as this is black, will automatically turn this into a transparent background. Go up here and go save. Save it as a PNG. And we'll just keep the same name. Okay. Now we're going to shut this gen mask off so we don't screw other images up when we load them. Go up here, import, grab the PNG, drop it down here. Then I'm going to grab my free modification tool. I'm going to spin this around. This. Scale it a little bit. We're going to come down here and drop it on the nose of the tank. Okay, let me scroll down here. This is the bottom, and this is the top. You can tell because you got the view periscopes right here. Stretch this out a little bit, bring it up. I just want to make sure we have all of this area covered. Okay. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to export this, but before we do that, we want to shut off. We want to shut off our UV mask so it's not visible. Okay. And we can just save it under this name because we're pretty much done with it. Now what we need to do before we change the size of this is we want to create our mask for modifying the AO maps. We go save as, and we're going to put mask on the end of this name and leave the HD so we know this is HD. Okay. And we're done with that. Now we're going to turn this back on. We're going to get to where we can get off of the image, and I'm going to change the image size to half as big. Okay, working in HD maps 2048 by 2048. We need this one to be 1024. And I've been using bilinear filtering because I seem to like it better. Okay, our image is now 1/4 the size. I'm going to save this as, and we're going to go up here and get rid of the mask and save it as a regular SD. Okay. Save. And we're done with that for now. Go back to Swizzler. Now what we need to do, convert these images, PNG. We'll start with the HD first. And we want to save this as a DDS. Oh wait, we have 3 different formats and bitmaps. Oh crap. What do we do? Well, let me tell you. It's right here. This is a little cheat sheet, tells you how to save these files. If it's an AM map, you're going to want to have it as BC1. And if it's an HD map, no MIP maps. Okay? So we want BC1 with no MIP maps for an HD. So, no MIP maps. Save this as. I'm going to go back to the games root, and we're going to save it. Right there is the HD map. Double click. Yeah, it exists. We're going to replace it anyway. Okay. Now, we're going to open up our AM map. And we're going to save this. But this is the SD map, and we need, go check our little list here. It's going to tell you SD maps have to have MIP maps. AM map has to be BC1. Quiet. Dogs. Right, turn this on. Back to our work area, or our root folder. Do it here. Okay. Gonna open this one up just to make sure I didn't write the wrong one. See? Good. Now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go up here to our work area, and we're gonna get the AOHD. Gonna load our mask into our mask position right here. Okay. Now, if you use this mask, you can see that it's set to replace. So it's replacing all of everything that's in there. In fact, it takes it off. We don't want all the color to be affected here, so I'm going to shut off red, green, and blue. Now, the output, we shut all the colors off. You can only see what's inside of the alpha channel, right? We have replaced, so it's actually putting it on there. What we want to do is we want to invert the mask on it. And there's a little slider here so you can kind of change it. The reason why I want to do this is because when you put camouflage on your tank, if you don't fix this, the camouflage is going to paint over your new paint job. So you want to create a mask and use it to modify this. These other channels, the red is ambient occlusion, and G, I don't remember. I think it's like speculative or something. But we don't really care about these when we're setting this up for our paint. Okay. And we have this all set up. This is an HD map. I'm going to go to save, right? But here we go. We're going to need to go check. AO maps are BC3. And it's an HD map, so there's no MIP maps, right? So the BC3, no MIP maps. Okay, we're going to go to our work area. I'm going to save it here. Okay. Now also, we're going to go up here and we're going to save this as a PNG. I'm going to go back to our work area so we can resize this. My application doesn't resize. We're going to replace this, okay? Go back to Fireworks. Okay. I'm going to open up this AOHD. And we're going to change its size to half as big. The AO maps are typically, the HD AO maps are half as big as the HD AM maps. So it already looks like it's half as big, which it is, but unfortunately we have to make it still half as big as the HD map. So do that. Okay. I'm going to save this as the regular AO map. Okay. Now we're going to go to Swizzler. We're going to load our AO PNG from the work area. And you'll see that it's 512 by 512. We're going to shut our mask off because we don't want to be... Our mask is a completely different size bitmap or image from this one. And it would cause problems. I'm going to save. Okay, we're going to DDS. But this is an SD map, so remember we need MIP maps on the SDs. This applies to all the SD maps. They all have to have MIP maps. Save this. Go here. Go here. If it doesn't have the HD on it, it's an SD map. Yep. Okay, now with that done, go back to this TankExporter. You should be able to see that we have new textures. Okay. Now if we go up here and turn the camouflage on, you can see how camouflage does not paint over our paint. It's something a little bit louder. How about this one? Okay. Pretty cool, huh? So, basically, all that's left to do is to make sure this works in the game. And we'll shut all this stuff down. And we get this going. Hopefully my screen capture don't crap out. Says we're still recording, so it's all good. Basically, just don't forget the differences between the HT and ST maps and their formats, because that's important. It's taken quite a while. Maybe my internet's been sluggish today. Okay, there you have it. In-game, modified, no fenders, new paint, and go up to the exterior if you want. And take this one, stick it on there, and you'll see it works exactly the same as it shows up in my editor.